What's up, family? Welcome to episode 16. I got my guest here, second time on Men vs. Ego. Know him from Shadow Work episode 8. I'm not going to introduce him again. He's a dear friend of mine, and almost forgot the title. The Power of Negative Friends. How negative friends can influence you and be your downfall for a lot of things. So, without further ado, Joey shook on.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up, man?
Doctor, don't forget.
Yeah, Doctor Joey. Not
I'm
really.
just kidding.
Just he's kidding.
It's a joke.
It's a joke
Yeah.
for sure. What's up, man? Long time no see. When's how you been? You already introduced yourself in the other one, so what's up,
Yeah,
dude?
yeah, yeah. Nothing much, man. Just been, getting ready to move on to the next chapter of my life. I've been busy moving and just a lot of stuff going on. So really appreciate you inviting me back on the show, do another one before I head out. And yeah, let's definitely get into this because it's one of my favorite topics, I would say.
Yeah,
I think
for
a lot of
sure,
people
man.
have a lot of negative friends in their life. They probably realize it, but they hang on to that. That's my friend. I got to be there for my friend, which is okay. But, it's kind of one of those, where do you draw the line? Where do you save yourself,
Yeah,
when they're pulling you down?
yeah, man. Some people rather live in dysfunction than let it go. They feel like they have no other
Yeah, for
choice.
sure.
But no,
Yeah, that
I'm happy.
happens.
It does. No, I'm happy to have you back here, man. And it sucks that you're going. You're leaving me, but you're going to bigger and better things. And who am I to stunt your growth and want to keep you here and so we can make more cool episodes. And honestly,
Yeah.
everybody that I talk to, oh, you're that guy that made the podcast with Sergeant Chacon and so Joey. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Or they'll vice versa. They'll be like, "Oh, you were the guy on Joey Chacon's show." Yeah, yeah, that's me. So I think we got a lot of views. I think that's one of my most viewed episodes, dude,
Yeah.
for sure.
The shadow work. Yeah. Super. It's one of those just interesting topics and can, sort of, apply to everybody. And,
Yeah,
I guess people our age in our 30s can kind of start to relate to that as they get older. But no, that was a good episode. Definitely enjoyed that one. Just overall, yeah, had a good time.
it
But
was.
glad to be back.
Thanks, man, and I'm happy that you're back. And I think that was the episode that kind of ignited your passion for this whole podcast thing for yourself, for the Forge
Yeah,
Within. And
it absolutely did. Yeah, I definitely. I haven't put any new episodes out because I've been, like I said, I've been really busy just in my own personal life. So kind of take a step back and move myself, get myself
yeah,
prepared for my next big move. I'm definitely gonna pump out some episodes. We'll see. We'll see. I got a lot of things I have to get there and see what the environment's like and kind of see where I can fit some time in to make all that stuff happen.
I look forward to seeing them, man. If you do make them, always support a friend. But this is not. This is the power of positive friends, but we're talking about the power of negative friends, bro. What's up, man?
Mhm.
I guess we'll go by the how we have this scripted. It says define what a negative friend is. Not just someone who's
Cool.
going through a hard time, but someone who's drains your energy, bro. What's up?
Yeah, man. So I'm sure a lot of people, not just, well, I'll just speak for myself, right? Just an example. I had a friend one time who I looked up to, who I really thought highly of. And at one point, they either hit a really rough time in their life or they were going through something. I'm not really sure, but they kind of disappeared. They disappeared for probably like a good 2 to 3 years, right? Never heard from them again. It's cool. It happens in our profession. You meet good people and then they leave, right? Anyways,
Yeah.
this person ended up hitting me up and was like, "Hey, I'm going through a rough time. This and this is happening." And of course, as a friend, right, you want to listen and you want to kind of support. The more of the story I was getting, the more it sounded kind of suspect. And then this individual started kind of graduating into, "Hey, man, can I borrow some money? And can I do this? Can I do that?" And at the time, I was deployed, so of course, I had extra cash, so I didn't mind. I don't kind of a rule for myself. I don't loan money to people, right? That's so if you come to me and ask me for like money, I'm gonna just give it to you, right? Because I don't want that kind of negative tension between us or me expecting that money back because it can cause a lot of issues. So I told him, "Don't worry about it, man. Here's the money." And then it just kind of turned into an every like I would never hear from him again. Well, for a while, right? And like the next month. hey man, I'm on a hard time. Can I get some more money? Like, okay, what about the money I gave you? Are you doing okay? What's going on? And then it just kept going and growing and growing to the point where I felt like I was taken advantage of, and just the stories and just kind of listening. And it was starting to affect me, right? Like negatively. And this is just one example of probably many I have, where this friend that I had turned into a negative friend. And then slowly their problems became my problems. And which I had nothing to do with whatever was going on in this person's life. So that's when I had to, make the hard decision to be like, all right, that's it, man. I can't support whatever you got going on in your life right now. I'm sorry. And, of course, just that conversation alone was, I want to say, energy draining to an extent, because you never want to tell one of your friends,
No.
hey man, I can't be there for you, or I can't help support you, or I can't give you money, or I can't do this and that for you, because it makes you feel like a bad friend, right? But just the decision to have that conversation really, started to affect me on a personal level. So that was just one of those, kind of leads me into why this topic is really important, because having friends or negative friends like that can really affect your mental health, can really maybe even ruin an opportunity, right? Because you turn something down because you were like, well, I'm going to be here to support my friend, instead of taking whatever opportunity presented itself. That's just kind of a couple of things. So yeah, negative friends aren't good for you. And I think it's important to set boundaries, right, with those individuals, because if you don't, they will ruin your life and you won't even know it until it's too late. Like,
Yeah.
that's going to happen. So you got to
You
be very,
still
very careful.
so you cut ties with a so-called friend?
Yeah, I had to. I absolutely had to. The money wasn't an issue. Like I said, I don't mind giving someone who needs it. Not at all. I'll give you anything. If I have it, I'll give it to you, right? But I feel like I was being taken advantage of, and then the stories kind of going along with, like, you don't have to lie to me, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you need money for whatever, you don't have to come up with some crazy story. I mean, maybe they were true at the beginning, but then you start to see patterns, and you're just like, yeah, this isn't. And I hate to be selfish when I say this, but like, what am I getting in return for this? Like, we talked about this. I think friendships being transactional to a degree. I give you my time and whatever, and you give me your time. That's kind of how it works. But if
Yeah.
it's kind of one sided, you start to question, like, what's really going on here?
What's
So
going on? No, yeah, man. Thanks for sharing that. I probably have a similar situation too. But should we really call them friends, man? I now that you kind of opened up my Pandora's box, like then those are more of acquaintance, but we call them friends because I mean, we known them forever, but do we really know them? Do
right,
we? Ask ourselves, do we really know these do we know any background on them, or do we just go work with them and occasionally kick it? No, I mean, they're
right.
acquaintance.
I
And
mean,
for sure.
that could be said for almost any friend, though, right? Because they could start off as legitimate, like, hey, I'm here for you, I'm your friend. I'll do anything you need me to do, and then certain life events or whatever could be going on with them could turn that, right? So I mean, sure, I would, safe to say, call them friends, because even like friends, family, like even family, like they have a falling out, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it happens. To be honest, I'm not even close with my family. So for me to, and I still call them family, but that's just by blood relation. But am I close to
Yeah.
them, or am I not really? But
No.
that's probably another topic. But I guess more to the point is that friends can turn into negative friends, which then can turn into, your downfall, an obstacle, something that keeps you from growing, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what kind of it sets you back. And it's like, uh, it's usually the people you trust the most, or it can be, I would say. You're more willing to do things for people that you love and care about, and then they turn on you on a dime, right? So, and that can be very hurtful. So you have to be really aware of those types of people, and kind of keep them at a arm's distance, so to speak.
And you know what's crazy, man, that everybody is capable of doing that. Everybody, including myself
Mhm.
and you.
Right.
We all have that negative spark inside of us to where if we choose to manipulate people, or if we choose to, like you said, ask for money, knowing that my friend got me, I'm just gonna keep
Hmm.
asking them until they tell me no. So if I can get away with
Yeah.
it and you let me get away with it, you best believe that person's going to try again and again and again and again until they know, okay, like you said earlier, you said something about boundaries. Well, I mean, that negative friend can play. I'm going to set the stage for you, bro. You ready? Play the
Okay.
perfect,
I'm ready.
play the perfect courtier. And you know
Yeah.
which book I'm talking about. That friend can play the
Yeah.
perfect courtier until they get what they want from you. And then boom,
Hmm.
what's law number 2 in 48 Laws of Power? Never put too much trust in friends, right?
Right.
Use
Yeah.
enemies.
Absolutely.
Learn to use your enemies. That story that he used to express that law and why that law exists is crazy. Basically, I'll sum it up in 10 seconds. It was a general, like a high king, who found this peasant. Basically, they became good friends. He decided to raise the peasant up and then give him a position of authority. And so he came up in the ranks and overthrew the king that gave him. And I think he beheaded him. He beheaded the king that was his friend. So
Yeah.
you never know. You never know what you're dealing with, man. They people have masks on. I spoke about this before. But I know that you're dying to say this law that you always brought up. You brought up. I saw you share it on a Facebook post, but then you brought it up
Hmm.
actually just before this podcast episode. But go ahead, man. Take the reins.
Oh yeah, we're talking about law number 10, infection. So avoid the unlucky and something else. I don't remember the rest of it. Basically, it's
Unhappy.
avoid people that are unhappy, right? Because again, like I said, their problems can easily become your problems without even realizing it. And in that law, Robert Greene touches on how he follows. It's just a story. It's not I'm talking about females, but how this one female who was lower in status, made friends with the right people, said the things that needed to be said, acted the way that needed to be acted in front of them, made her way up the line. But her character outside of those circles, was a character that wasn't very ladylike, very disrespectful, treated people like crap, and people didn't like that. So they started to turn on the the male companion that she was associated with, and usually ended bad for that person, and she left a trail of broken men along her way. And of course, you could take that story and apply it to just about anything, right? And we talk about how like friends you just never know what they're up to, and it's kind of a scary thing. But when I was younger, always you always want to have a lot of friends and you want to be the popular kid, or maybe you don't, I don't know. And your circle's big. Like you got a lot of friends. But as I've gotten older, I've started to really shrink my circle. Like my circle's tiny. And I'm more of a quality versus quantity type of person now. Like I don't want to have a lot of friends. And I know that sounds kind of like a lonely life, but it's a peaceful, comfortable life. I don't, and then even with the friends I do have, if they have, a lot of problems going on, I just let them be and let them figure it out. I'll listen, I'll be there, be supportive, but I have my boundaries, right? And I don't get involved. And like some people would say that you're a terrible friend, and maybe so, but like I said, their problems could easily become mine. I get wrapped up in their bad character flaws that I don't see, and then next thing you know, I'm defending someone that could be a terrible person to other people, and I just don't know because I'm blinded by the friendship dynamic.
Yep.
And that's just a way to protect myself. And again, people watching this might disagree with me and think differently, but that's just the way I handle things because it keeps me out of it, right? So I just have a different little perspective on that.
Everybody's a critic, dude. They're gonna criticize you whether you're a millionaire or you're in poverty. They're gonna criticize you whether
Right.
you're the best leader in the world or the worst leader. People are gonna find ways to criticize you whether they like you or not. So it's
Hmm.
good to keep that you have your tactics, the way you handle things. Some
Right.
people are gonna like them. Some people are gonna say that you're crazy for that. But as long as you're protected, dude, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's how you handle things. As long as it's not
Yeah.
violent, you're not out there freaking doing crazy stuff. So, but yeah, dude,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that law. I know you're almost done with that book, but I had to tell you, man, I when I first read it, it opened up my eyes to a lot of BS. And
Hmm.
dare I say it, I use it sparingly sometimes. 90% or and above, I usually get what I'm looking for. I guess thanks to to the tactics in that book. But
Hmm.
what about uh let's see here. The constant critic. Like I told you, everybody's a critic. The constant critic always has something negative to say, even about your wins. Exactly what I said, man. You ever met anybody like that before?
Yeah, I sure have. Me, I got to be honest, right? So after kind of reading this chapter and kind of like self doing a self assessment, I like to do a lot of those, right? I started to kind of evaluate what type of friend am I, right? And what's crazy is we have a list here, and I'm sure we'll get through them. But the constant critic, even with the wins, right? There's always, again, especially in our profession in the army, right? We're always comparing ourselves to other people, and we're always, who's better, who's this, who's that. And after kind of going through my self assessment, I guess I realized that I have tendencies where I'm a huge critic of people. And even people I claim to be, acquaintances, they may not be friends, but they're acquaintances, but what's to keep that from, I guess, leaking or seeping into my actual friendships. Right. So and even in my relationship with my wife, where, excuse me, where she does something and I'm like, ugh, throw my little comments. Well, that's great, but you didn't do this, or what I'm saying, kind of things like that. Uh, so yeah, being a critic, and you're happy for that person, but there's a part of you, and that's usually, again, in my opinion, I'm not a doctor. It's just because it's a shortcoming in your own life that you realize, and you're a little jealous that maybe you're not where you're supposed to be either. But your friend is doing good things, right? And it's just competition driven a lot of times. And yeah, I can tell you, I've caught myself being a constant critic, especially at work, where, caught myself criticizing people, what they didn't do, or, if they did do something, it's like, I could have done that better. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say I'm a negative friend, but I'm not probably one of the best friends you can have. But in my self assessment, I definitely identified that and have definitely been making an effort to not be that type of friend. Right. Um, what about you, man? You got any other ones besides the constant critic?
Mm.
What about that chismoso, that gossiper?
Oh, the gossiper, the chismoso. Man, that was you, bro.
Yeah.
That was you. Nah, I'm kidding, man.
See? Yeah.
It's all fun and games. Um, the victim never takes accountability. Life is always happening to them. It's always somebody else's fault.
Right.
I was talking to one of my mentors back at work, and he had a situation to where one of his leaders didn't do the right thing, but they blamed it on
Mhm.
XYZ. It really wasn't XYZ's fault. It was the lack of maybe not thinking for an alternative for a different course of action. He just, well,
Right.
can't do it anymore. But there's always a different course of action to take. Anyway, he didn't take
Right.
accountability. We sat there talking about, I'm like, I love accountability. I love being wrong. Please, like, let's make you have accountability and not know that not all what you say is the right thing to say.
Right.
I feel like people some are scared of being wrong. But wrong is like if you don't know you're wrong, then how can you know you're right? So you have to know at some point in time in your life that hey, that way that you used to do things, it's not the right way, man. You can change, you can admit to be wrong, but my ego does not let me. It's too it'll get hurt, it'll get crushed.
Right.
So what? So what, dude? Like, no. Learn to say, yeah, I'm wrong. My bad. It's my fault. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And it's the best. It shows character, man. It shows your true
Right.
your true demeanor inside of you. And there's another law that goes to that. I don't know if you got there yet. Learn to use a cat's paw to where have somebody else take the blame for it. Have somebody else be the bearer of bad news. Have somebody else
Right.
take that L. But you always bring good news. You always share the victory, but never the losses. It's something about with cat's paw. That's very manipulative right there. But yeah, man, the victim. I don't know, man. I can't. To
Yeah.
me, if I
The
have a
victim
friend,
is the.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think, again, personal opinion here is like, I think a lot of people play the victim simply because it's easy to do. It's probably one of the easiest things to do is to, well, it's so and so's fault. It's this and this's fault. And, all these things happen to me. How do I, another example is that, again, it sounds like we're gossiping, but I have a friend or, I have an acquaintance maybe who just has had a string of terrible relationships, one after another, right? Just relationship, relationship, relationship. This female did this to me, or this female doesn't do this or do that, or so on and so forth, and always has problems, right? Just tons of relationship issues. And at some point, I guess I got frustrated and got the emotions got the best of me. And I was like, dude, have you ever thought maybe it's not the females, it's you? You're the problem, right? Like you're the issue here. Like you're the one that does these things, or you don't have enough self-awareness to realize that you're the problem. And I'll just say that didn't go over too well with that individual. Um, it's just so easy to blame other people for what's going on with you. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn as a person. I had a bad NCOER like, I don't know, 7 years ago, to the point it was bad enough to it still affects me today. But for a long time, I blamed everybody else. I blamed everybody else for that one. And it wasn't until about maybe 2, 3 years ago, I was like, you know what, that was on me. That was on me. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to tactfully accept, like you mentioned earlier, being wrong. I didn't know how to, because I was, I had a lot of great ideas, but when they didn't take my good idea and use it, I got upset. That was a lot of
Mhm.
my emotional intelligence I was just immature. And it took me a while to think back on that whole year and realize that the problem wasn't everybody else. It was me. And when you have friends that fail to see that or realize that, then you on the other side of that friendship need to probably protect yourself from that individual because their energy, right? And I think that's another type of negative friend, or the energy vampires, right? They
Yeah.
come in, you have so much energy for the day, you're at 100%, but if you got this friend that drains you down to 50, right? Like that's kind of one of those things. And I think I told you about this. It's called the let them theory,
Mel
right?
Robbins.
When yes, dude, that was super powerful in itself. This is the let them theory, and I've been adopting that myself. Right, when things don't go my way, or people do things that I don't necessarily agree with, I just tell myself, let them. Right, yeah, let them do it. And that's kind of in a way giving power back to myself, right? And then let me how I'm going to deal with that situation. How am I going to respond to it emotionally, or if I'm going to respond to it at all? That's up to me. So dealing with the energy vampires is a huge thing because they're in everybody's life. You got an energy vampire?
No, dude, I think I spoke to this topic with my friend Jordan on the opposite side of the spectrum of this title, The Power of Positive Friends. And I mentioned briefly how energy vampires can come into your life, and one minute you're like you're glowing, everybody seems to be attracted to you in a positive way, and then this person comes to your life and it's like you're looking dull, you're gloomy, and it's because
Right,
they take, but they never give back. They
right,
take, and then they never get back, bro. And they're taking your life force in a way and using them for their convenience, for their personal gain, and not leaving you with nothing.
right.
So yeah, I have had energy vampires in the past. Dare I say a twin flame can be an energy vampire. Because
Absolutely.
anybody who's ever been in that situation or knows what I'm talking about, it's very back and forth, in and out. One day you're up, one day you're the one going up, and then the next day they're the one going down, or vice versa. And
Right.
it can be a very catastrophic relationship dynamic if it's not being monitored or in a mindful way, thinking about like, oh, if I say XYZ, I can hurt them verbally, or maybe if I do this, I can hurt them verbally, or vice versa. Maybe I can show them that I love them by doing this and that.
Yes, yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's
Dare
terrible.
I say. And it's kind of one of those things where like you're having a great day, right? And you see that person, and they're just having an absolutely terrible day, not speaking with you. They're not talking to you. I mean, that's the same thing. You can feel something's off, right? So then that
Yeah.
disrupts your energy, your spirit, whatever you want to call it. And now you're like, you start to think, what's going on? Did I do something
Yeah.
wrong? What's happening? And when in truth has nothing to do with you. Uh, it's just who they are, or it's just whatever they're going through. And then next thing you know, you're feeling down and, like
Yeah.
asking
Yeah.
yourself again the question, what did I do wrong? And it's just, it's not good. Like those are the things you have to look out for because and separate yourself from those individuals. And once you're able to do that, you'll see huge change
The
just in your
huge
day to
change.
day.
The huge change, man. And it's funny that we're mentioning just friends, but family members, I think you hit on it earlier, could be
Mm-hmm.
negative in your life too, especially if they
Absolutely.
know they because I mean obviously some family members grew up with you. They know your trigger points. They know how to press your buttons. So if they say one
Right.
thing and then somehow they trigger you to, "Oh, man, maybe because you can do everything right, man. You can have a good career, a great house, a good life, and they'll still find something to nail you to the coffin for, to the cross for.
Right.
Back in high school, remember you did this to poor Joey? Great. Nah, now you're gonna have me feel you're gonna make me feel bad.
Right.
Okay, I
Right.
see what you're doing. But you try to tell them, hey, they're wrong. They don't want to hear it, man. They don't want to hear it. So the manipulator.
Yeah. Yeah. My family is on my I don't know my dad's family side, but on my mother's side, they're all here. They all live here in Texas. They're all close. And I never grew up around them, right? So I wasn't close to them really, but
Mm,
I know my mom is, and we've recently had some deaths in the family. My uncle and my grandmother, they've passed on literally months within each other. And of course, it seems what I find interesting is that someone in our family has to die for our family to come together at some form or fashion, right? And even then, family members find this opportunity or use this opportunity to bring up old stuff or, start drama. It is the most drama filled events that I have ever attended. And it got to a point where like, I'm just not going to go. I don't, and I have to hear, I talk to my mother and she tells me about, oh, your cousin did this or your aunts and uncles are doing this. And I hate to be so cold and say, you know what, mama, I just really don't care. That's what I want to say, but I end up just listening. Yeah, yeah, okay. And then, of course, my mom does come to visit and she goes through uh, you know, I think a recent breakup happened in the family and it starts the whole, the gossiping and the speculation and all this. And it's just, I see my mom getting all caught up in the drama. It's like, what are you doing? Just leave it be. It has
yeah.
nothing to do with us, our
Some
immediate
people,
family.
well,
Go
you've
ahead.
read The Power of Now too, man. And I don't know if you remember chapter 9 or chapter 8 and it's into relationships. And some people live in what Edgar Tolle calls it dramatic relationships. Drama-filled relationships makes the people in the relationships feel alive. They need a little bit of drama in their lives to feel, oh, yes, this is the one. Oh, yes, we're gonna make up. They need that
Right.
drama. They can't live without it, or they make it seem like they can't. Where in reality, is like you don't need that drama in your life because then you'll become unconscious. If you have an unconscious partner where they're yelling at you and getting mad at you over petty stuff, then you and I'm guilty of this, and then they yell at you or vice versa, then you both become unconscious. Is this really going to matter in a year from now? Like, is this
Right.
conversation, is this little issue or argument or disagreement going to matter in the long run? No, it's not. But at that moment in time, it's the end of the world. You have to be right.
Right.
I was watching one of those shorts, and I think they were talking about the quickest way to quiet a person is to agree with them. Just
Hmm.
it's a law. It's actually a law in the 48 Laws of Power, man. And look, this is how crazy it is. Now I'm remembering all the laws. Think, behave like others, but think as you like. That's a good one,
Hmm.
man. I don't know if you got it yet, but agree.
I
Yeah, of
haven't.
course. Yeah. Agree with
Yep.
everything they say. Yeah. But act when you go home in your own private space where it's just you, think as you wish, do as you wish.
Right.
Cause, you know, but yeah,
I think I
that's a good
did
one,
cover
man.
that one. Yeah. Some about the one of the ministers
Yep.
that
Yep.
was
Yep. Yep.
really supported war for the country, but then he spoke openly publicly against it, which then
Yes.
pleased the king. And then the king was like, you know what, you're going to be my prime minister. And then he convinced the king as the newly appointed prime minister to it was time to go to war because that's really what he wanted to do.
Bro,
I
he
think
was
that's
so
the law.
yes, that's the one. But you know what's the crazy part on that one is that he wrote a claiming that, like you said earlier, but he basically, it's an oxymoron. He disproved everything about that way of thinking, of behaving like others,
Mhm.
even though he was thinking like others, like behaving like others. But he basically proved his point with writing that book, saying the people who think like we're like this and that and the third, and that this religion or that religion is this. That book explains it better than me. But when he wrote that book, he basically, it was a big fu to the oxymoron. It's an oxymoron, man. It's it's
Right.
that book supposedly was to catapult the way that the king wanted, like you said, but is in actuality it was just taking shots at that why the king was like that religion at that point in time, or that way of thinking at that
Right.
point in time. That was dope. That was a good one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that was one of the good laws, and I thought to myself, first off, I hope I never find myself in a situation like that, but you could. So good
Good.
information. I was like, I don't know when I would ever, enact something like that, but you never know, right? Because I did. Let's just say this: I had a job recently in 2020 to 2022. Now I'm not going to get into the details, but let's just say that that job required me to put my own personal thoughts and feelings aside for a lot of things, and it was really tough. Just the state of the world, the state of the country, and I'm not going to get political, but it just didn't feel. I almost felt like I was betraying myself, and in a sense, I was. But you have to, you had to play your part, and I had to play my part because that was my job. I'm going to do my job. So I didn't agree with everything that was going on at the time, but this job required me to do just that, and I didn't let my personal feelings and opinions get in the way of me doing my job. Luckily, I had went to school for this, so school taught you kind of how to. Hey, you might not agree with everything, but you will, for the army's sake, for the government, you will uphold these things that we require you to do. Like, okay, cool, I'll do it. But yeah, I would say those 2 years in that position were not easy. They took an emotional toll on me. And by the end of that, I was like, I'm done. I'm so worn. Like I was emotionally tired, exhausted just from that position. And I never thought I would be, but it was definitely one of those. It was a tough job. But yeah, so just let me ask you something, right? I kind of hit on this at the beginning when I talked about my old friend. Why do you think, a lot of people, they identify friends like this, negative friends? Why do you think they keep that relationship going? It's kind of one of those things that keep people in that toxic cycle, dare I say?
Like, dang, yes, could be a multiple things. Maybe the lack of options. Maybe they feel like that's the only friend they can count on, the only person that can be there for them. Or it could be some people stay unconscious for all their lives, man, and they just let people run over them or use them for their own nihilistic, Machiavellian personal use. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. Sometimes you need to come to, I guess you can say, come to Jesus moment. Somewhere where
Hmm.
you had to hit ground zero in order to really open up your eyes and see what type of people are around you. In order for you to be like, nope, you're not for me. Nope, not you. And it's, I think as we get older and stop being a little bit less naive, it's like you said earlier, your friend group becomes smaller. If I got three good friends, man, I'm happy. Maybe two,
Right.
I'm happy. And I don't need I'm a social person, man. I usually talk to everybody at work. Everybody knows me,
Yeah.
but I'm not friends with everybody. The people who
Right.
know me. And it's like you said, man, it's like you want that small friend group.
Hmm.
And I guess it could be multiple things, man. That's a great question. Maybe
Yeah.
Dr. Jordan Peterson can be better answer that.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, again, personal opinion here. I think a lot of it, like one of it comes to your history with that person, like how far do you go back? We grew up together, I this person did so many things for me, and I'm gonna do so many things for them. That's part of it, I think, history. We go way, way back. We're good buddies. That could be one of them. Just a lot of people are just afraid of confrontation. If they, again, it's kind of one of those, like I was mentioning, having that conversation with my friend, be like, hey man, I can't do this anymore. I can't support your whatever. I can't give you money anymore. I just can't do it anymore, man. And
Yeah.
again, it wasn't the issue of the money. It was the like the lopsided friendship there. It just didn't feel right. So, and that, hit me in different ways. So that conversation in itself, that event was, I was scared. Because again, remember I told you I looked up to this guy. He was, someone who, dare I say, mentored me a little bit, kind of was there for big moments in my career. And to see him down and out and then constantly, and again, remember I said that people would probably consider you a bad friend, right? For setting boundaries. Well, if you were a real friend, you would have done this and done that and not worried about the money or, why he was leaving or, whatever the situation was. But I think it's, yeah,
Yeah.
just confrontation in general. You don't want to fight with your friends, but I think it's just bound to happen. So you just need to realize that.
I think boundaries are there
Or
for a
guilt.
reason, bro. Yeah, exactly. Boundaries are there for a reason, and they're not supposed to make you comfortable. They're supposed to make you uncomfortable, so you know not to cross that line. And if you cross a line, well,
Right.
now I know where you're at. Now you know where you're at. So it's not supposed to be like, oh yeah, I'm crossing this boundary. I'm still cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, dude, you're not. So boundaries are very important, especially when they're kept up and not, oh, okay, fine. Nah, dude, keep them up.
All right.
And I would argue that that a good friend, for example, would go to a barber. Let's say your best friend's a barber, right? And he's charging $20, or he's a great barber. He's charging $20, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go with my friend to get. I can get a discount. I know him. He'll probably charge me like 10, 15.
Mm-hmm.
I get a $5 discount. No, man. If you go to your friend, make sure you pay him more. So if he's charging 20, pay him 30, maybe plus tip. I'm just saying, don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go to your
Yeah.
friends, he's trying to run that business. Don't half-ass him and like, hey man, you're my boy, right? You my boy. 15? 15 for your boy? No, dude. That's you're looking for something. No. If you're a good friend, give your boy what he deserves. Like show him that you're grateful to have him in your life and wish him well in his barbershop, whatever. Give him that $30. Give him twice as much. Maybe not. Well, you decide, but not 15.
Yeah.
Don't go there with the
Right.
mindset of expecting a discount. It's just my philosophy
Right.
on that, man.
No, yeah. Definitely got to support, friends and, they're truly our friends, right? And that kind of brings me to, while you were saying, I was thinking about how like setting boundaries, right, will upset those individuals. It's gonna happen, right? You're setting, they're not able, they no longer have access to you like they used to. You've removed that access, and now they're kind of taken back by that. And kind of what that do is going to cause conflict. You're going to get upset. But I believe that a true friend, right, would respect your boundaries, right? They'll get over whatever little argument you guys got into, and then they'll come back, right? They'll come back, and then everything they'll know the boundaries that you set. They know that they can no longer, take advantage of you, whether they were knowingly or unknowingly doing it. And then I think your friendship becomes stronger just based off of that. So I think setting boundaries is probably like the first step to dealing with negative friends. Now, when I say that, I'll preface or caution. Of course, you're gonna have friends that are really loyal and just the highest quality of friends. They're gonna go through things, right? They're going to have problems. And of course, you want to be there for that individual. But I think it's recognizing the patterns, right? If it's the same thing over and over and over again, right? Because I would hate for a friend of mine, I'm having a legitimate, issue. And I go to them and they're like, I don't want to hear this, man. Deal with it. Then I'm thinking, what kind of friend are you? What's going on here? Right? We've been through the shit together and you're just throwing me to the side because I'm throwing off your vibes or whatever. But that's why I'm saying, like, if it's an isolated event, it's a one off, like, this person, it's kind of one of those things. So when I say set boundaries, I'm not saying to disregard that person completely. I'm just saying don't allow them to continue, have that conversation. I think that's another way to kind of handle negative friends. Like, hey, look, you're a friend. I really care about you. I care about, what's going on in your life. But I think you need to make some changes and be honest with them and be like, and like this is what I see from my point of view, and you can take it, you can leave it. It's up to you. But it's kind of like the friend with the relationship issues. I had that conversation with him. Like, hey,
Yeah.
uh, bro, I think it's you, man. I think you need to quit playing the games. We're not 20, we're not early 30s. We're older, man. So it's time to settle down. It's time to, to grow up, become a man, and make one of these things work. Or you can keep acting like a child and do whatever. I digress. I had to have that conversation, and it wasn't an easy one, And then I think they're currently in a relationship right now, and they're doing great, right? So I don't know if they heeded my advice, or they just maybe did that self reflection and they got there. But point is having that conversation with those people can really do wonders. Setting boundaries, talking to them, and then at the end, like I said, at the end of it is let them do it. And they come around, they come around. They don't, they don't. No sweat off my back, man. I'm good. I'm
Yeah,
happy.
man.
I'm doing podcasts. I'm doing great things. It's whatever. I don't know how else to to really confront that.
I pretty much hit the nail on the head, dude. I would like to finish this episode off by
Okay.
thanking thanking you for coming on again, man, and sharing everything you just said from the beginning to what is it now, 50 minutes into it. As a friend, it's incumbent upon you, if somebody that's your friend is doing something that's self-harming and is going down a negative slope, it's incumbent on you to tell them, like, hey, bro, or hey, girl, like, if you go down this path, it's you're gonna regret it. And if you do care about them, at least. If you don't, if you're an acquaintance or so-called friend that only asks for money, you can care less. Like, oh yeah, all right, whatever. He likes drinking a lot. Maybe he's not financially responsible. XYZ, whatever the case may be, you can put a price tag on that. It's incumbent upon us, man.
Yeah. I think a real friend will call you out on your BS. And if they're not a real friend, then they'll just let you drown and high five you on the way out.
100%, dude.
Yeah.
100%.
But
But hey, Joey, thank you for coming on here. I know the listeners,
absolutely.
I hope this is overpowers the shadow work episode that we did. And I can't thank you enough to coming on here again, man. I look forward to having you on many, many more times, God willing. And
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm blessed to have met you at the time that I met you when we started talking about spirituality and books and the way of thinking, philosophy, and all this other stuff. And I didn't know that we had so much in common, man. It actually made the friendship bond come easier. So we're like, damn, I didn't know you like that.
Yeah.
But no, thanks, Joey.
Yeah, I was
Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, thank you for having me again once again on your podcast. It's great. I love talking about this stuff. I actually rather be a guest than to do my own, but hey, whatever. It's all good. It's a lot less work on my end, right? All I got to do is get on here and talk for almost an hour. So,
Yeah.
no, I really enjoy it, man. Appreciate it. You're doing a great job. I actually got to go back and listen to a few episodes I've missed. YouTube's not letting me know, so
Hmm.
I gotta go back and check that out.
Make
But
make sure you ring that bell. Ding.
ring the bell, the notification. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, if
exactly.
you haven't liked or followed Men versus Ego, absolutely do so. You got Bobby Galarza here, does a great show. Go back, watch all the episodes, check them out.
Thank you, man.
But anyways, all right, man.
All right, man. To alibi, this show wouldn't be this show without people like you, man, and the good people that I like to call friends that we can just stop talking for a couple months and then hit each other up like, hey, man, how you been? Bro, just like yesterday. Like we
Yeah.
never left. And those are the type of
Hmm.
friends that you want to keep around. But anyway, Joey, I digress. I said everything I needed to say. I love you, endeavors. I hope you come back and definitely get some Modelo
Me
time in,
too.
bro.